Hello and welcome back to Autofunk. I'm Llewellyn.
I'm Chris.
And this is our Corvette ZR1 project, which if you're watching this, you've probably already seen the previous episodes. We wanted to start by saying, sorry for not being so consistent with the videos. We've both been really busy. I've been working away with my day job. Weather, life, it's very difficult to film. But we're back and we are going to see this project through. You're not going to have it where, like on some YouTube channels, the content suddenly disappears. This car will be back on the road fixed. And in the last episode, if you haven't watched it, check it out. I'll put a link up in the description below. We got the brakes working. We moved it under its own steam for the first time. The brakes are still not 100%, so we're going to revisit those and adjust the handbrake and possibly try and bleed them again, depending on how we're doing for time.
Someone gave a tip, didn't they? Did they say bleed them the other way around on a Corvette? I don't know if it's worth a go.
Yeah, somebody said bleed them front to back. I don't know.
We'll try that as well, maybe.
Maybe we'll try that. We'll see. We'll just see how it goes, see if we can see some air in it. But the main aim of this video is to do further investigation on the engine and the cam sensor issue, because as you know, I don't know if I'm in frame, as you know, it's still not running properly. And it's really frustrating because we're getting to the stage now where we're not far off being able to take it for an MOT. And
just nice of it fired and more cylinders.
Yeah, with it not running properly is not good. So what we've got is, we've got an oscilloscope. So the plan is we're going to use the scope to look for a pulse on the cam sensor and then chase that pulse around the wiring to make sure we haven't got any wiring faults. Do you just want to talk us through that, Chris?
Well, there's three plugs we're particularly interested in. One here, you might notice this isn't attached to the car. This is a spare cam sensor. We'll also test the one that's attached to the car as well. That goes through to here. This is just so we've got easiness, so we've got a bit of metal, we can touch it against something and we can see it to follow it without the car running, essentially. So it goes into there, goes into the ignition module, back out the ignition module, and eventually works its way to this plug. I think this pin?
D3.
Is that D3 or is this D3? I can't remember. We'll find out.
Yeah, it's
D3. Labelled
on there.
It's labelled on there, it's too small for my eyes. D3. So we're going to work that out. It's going to be there, I think.
So to recap on how the cam sensor works, basically it's looking for a pulse off the camshaft, and that pulse is picked up by this. This has got a coil in it that looks for, as metal passes through there, it sends a 5-volt signal out of this middle wire, and then that goes into the ignition ECU. I know Chris has just explained this, and back from the ignition ECU into the main ECU via this brown plug. And what's going to happen, essentially when we touch this on a piece of metal, we'll see the line on the oscilloscope pulse up and down, and then we're going to chase that signal around to determine that we've got that signal in the right place. If we have, then really it's going to mean that either the ECU's at fault, or perhaps, like we've just had a conversation.
Yeah.
If you grab one of those plugs and just show.
Well, you might remember the new plugs we put in were pointy on the top. These ones, these AC Delco, the original plugs, aren't pointy. So I think we might have potentially two bad sets of plugs. The old ones aren't fantastic, as you can see. I'm trying to clean them up to put them back in, but I've just put the new ones back in and it's even worse. We might have two bad sets of plugs. It could be as simple as that. Maybe that's why it's not running. Maybe that's why it's throwing a cam code. Maybe it's running so off and rich that it thinks what's going on. Don't know. Could be. So I'm going to gap those and then put them back in.
Chris is going to clean the old plugs up, and we're going to refit the old plugs, see if it makes a difference.
And make sure the gaps as well. Very important, yeah.
Where we're at, that car stank of weed. Car just drove by, geez. Stank of weed. And I thought the area was all right, but you know, with gutters like this, maybe it's not. We've tried. We're at the stage now where the only two issues that we've got with the engine is we've got an error code 31 on the diagnostic, which is a cam sensor fault, and there's an element of doubt over the condition of the plugs. Other than that, we think we've covered all bases. We still haven't fitted the O2 sensors, but we don't think that the O2 sensors or blocked cats or a blocked exhaust is causing the issue. We think it's something to do with the ignition. So it could be the plugs. It's hard to say. More likely, it could be that there's an issue with the ECU. So shall we plug that?
Yeah, I mean, I doubt very much. I don't think the cats can be blocked because it's pulsing nicely out
seems
the
quite
exhaust.
free. The exhaust seems quite free flowing. I don't think the cats are blocked.
No.
What we'll do if
And it's the same out of both sides.
yeah, it's the same out of both
so
sides.
Unlikely, I think.
Yeah, so the exhaust system is a twin system. So obviously it's a V8, so you have a manifold each side and basically 2 exhaust pipes to the back. And the exhaust gases are pulsing equally out of both exhausts. So it'd be, I think it'd be
That's unlikely, I think.
unlikely if they were both blocked to the same extent, but who knows. So yeah, plan is Chris is going to clean those plugs up. I will connect this to our test lead, the cam sensor, and we'll do some testing with the scope and verify that we've got a pulse from the cam sensor, fit the new plugs and see how it's running, and then after that we're going to adjust the handbrake and look at bleeding the brakes again.
Yeah, I'm going to throw these plugs back in, I think, whilst you're doing that.
Are you happy for me to just crack on and do this?
Yeah, I'm going to throw the plugs back in
All right.
whilst you're doing that.
So this is the cam sensor plug. So this is part of the wiring loom of the car. We've got a cam sensor here. There's 3, I'm going to use something to point so it's easier. It's a 3-wire cam sensor, so you've got a ground connection which goes to the negative on the battery. There's a 12-volt feed, which is this pin, and then the middle pin is the output from the sensor. So when the camshaft, the flag on the camshaft passes the sensor, it sends an output signal over the middle wire into there, and then we should see on the scope that going up and down. It does need the ignition turning on, but like Chris said earlier, the reason that we're using a separate sensor is just so that we've not got to keep turning the engine over, so it makes testing a little bit easier. So what we've got here is we've got a lead going into the scope, a 0 volt or ground, and then an input. So I'm going to connect into my loom. I'm going to connect the output of the cam sensor into the input of the scope. So if I demonstrate with a socket, the signal on the scope's gone high because I've got a voltage feed from the ignition. Is the ignition on?
Yes.
Yeah. So the ignition is on, the signal's gone high because I've got a voltage feed from the ignition, so I've got 12 volts on this pink and black wire. And then using a socket, if you imagine that that's the flag on the cam sensor, you can see that I've actually got a nice pulse there. So we know that this cam sensor's okay, basically. We're happy that that's pulsing. Off camera, we've already tested the one that's in the car, and we know that cam sensor's working. So we've wasted about $170 on this, or about 130 quid, because we've already got a working cam sensor. So that was a bit stupid not doing this test first, but you know what, it's an old cam sensor, we'll put the new one in anyway, keep the other one as a spare, and maybe in the future if somebody does have a failure, we can help them out and donate ours to the ZR1 family. But yeah, so we're happy now that the operation of the sensor is correct. So the next thing that we're going to do is follow the wiring round to the ECU. There is another connection point in the ignition module which is under the plenum. We could get to that, but really you can circumvent that, because if we've got the same pulse at this plug, we know that the wiring is correct up until this point. So I'll do that now.
So pointless going around the house.
So it's the same thing. I can disconnect my test lead. I can plug my cam sensor back in. So what we've got to do now is find pin 3 on this connector, which is, luckily they label it, so I can see that it's this one here. So I'm going to push that in. So I've got my test probe basically on this pin. Got my cam sensor connected. Still got voltage on the cam sensor, that's why the line has shifted. And then
we've got cam sensorage at the ECU.
We've got cam sensorage at the ECU, so we know the cam sensor's working. We know that the wiring is okay all the way through the loom up to here. The bit that's unknown now is the ECU, and that's something that's really hard to test. So I think what we're going to do, well, you tell me, Chris, but I'm thinking that we'll try the spark plugs now they've been properly cleaned and gapped.
It's not going to work.
It won't work, but we'll try it anyway.
I think then we need to find another ECU we can borrow, or another ZR1 we can borrow. Anyone's got one?
We do. Well, I know of a guy in England
where we can, before we send that off to America to be fixed, at great expense.
So the ECU is an unknown. Now luckily we've made friends with another ZR1 owner in the UK, Vince. If you're watching this, you're a legend, and I know that you're probably going through the same as what we're going. Vince has got a project ZR1 very similar to this actually, that's been sat for a long time, and he's working through it, his runs, and he knows that the ECU is okay. Vince has offered for us to take our ECU to his garage, plug it into his car, and see if the fault moves over into his car. So we'll do that in a future episode before we send it off to America. Two sides of why we're reluctant to send this to America. One is the postage. We wouldn't want it to go missing, because we're basically
if that goes missing, when
we're going to be in a pickle if this goes missing. The other thing is it's justifiably very expensive to repair. Obviously it needs a specialist fix, which is not cheap. So we really don't want to waste any time or money getting this sent to America if it turns out that it's not the ECU. So we might call upon your services, Vince, and come and see you with this module and see if you can help us out. But yeah, as it currently stands, just to demonstrate one more time, cam sensor wiring all seems to be okay to the ECU. So back to the drawing board. How are you getting on with the plugs?
I'm on the famous number 8 now.
Number 8. All right then. Well, while Chris is doing that, I'll pack the scope away, and
you should have to do in kind of a weird order, don't you?
Yeah, finish putting the plugs in. We'll try and start it.
It'll be the same.
It'll be the same, but you never know. And once we've verified that, we'll jack the back up and adjust the handbrake. Because I live on a slope, you can probably tell. It will be quite nice to have a working handbrake. So I've not got to use chocks at the moment. We've got blocks of wood stopping the car rolling back, but it's quite an easy thing. We didn't realise. I should have read the service manual. A common mistake that lots of amateur mechanics like us make, where you sort of cut corners and don't always read the service manual. But it turns out that there is an adjustment on the rear brake calipers to tension the handbrake, so we'll get that sorted. And you'll join us once the spark plugs are in, and we'll run it again and see if that's made a difference. Well, are they all clean now?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, well I'll pack the scope away anyway.
Drop my socket thing down there.
I bought some teas out.
Drop my socket thing down there.
You know what else I've got?
What?
Who remembers these?
Ooh,
like the most
bars.
The most retro biscuits ever. Do you get those in America? I bet you don't. They're delicious.
You're the best.
Anyway, cup of tea and a little chocolate bar.
Oh, I love a gold.
What do you want? A magnet?
A magnet, if you've got one. Has got a little magnetic tip on it?
It's got a little magnetic tip on it, yeah. Chris is struggling with the plugs. I could help him. The access is rubbish.
Number 8's really bad.
I think you're supposed to take some of the heater box stuff off or something, but you can just about get in there with a magnet.
This isn't magnetic.
Anyway, while he's struggling, I'm just going to carry on eating a biscuit. Okay, we've got the spark plugs are back in, so we've just for a laugh, because we know that it's not going to run properly. The keys, by the way, are just on the back of the car there. We're going to run it.
We do need to run it to move it anyway.
And we're going to see if it's made any difference. But just run it and just let it idle. And let's see what happens.
Again, you're wishful thinking with the words let it idle, I think. I think letting it idle might be a wishful... Got neutralis, yeah.
But I bet you with these original, I think they're the original plugs, I bet you it runs better.
Yeah. We've got no cam sensor.
Oh yeah.
That's why it's not going.
Oh no, it's plugged in.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is the ECU all plugged in?
The ECU's all plugged in.
Oh. Why is it not trying to fire at all?
I don't know. Try it again.
No. Even less gooder.
Oh.
That starter motor sounds like a Mopar starter motor, doesn't it?
Go for it again. I don't get that. Are we missing something basic here? Put your foot on the throttle.
Well, I think it's running rich anyway, so I think probably it's flooding. It's trying to go.
Try it again.
It's even less happy. Maybe it wants a bigger gap than we thought.
That's the plug gaps.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's changed. Well, I think what we've done is we've screwed up. We've changed the plug gaps and now it won't start. Let's can that for now. We'll order some new plugs.
Yeah.
And next time round we'll
the gap in the manual.
fit the new plugs and see what happens, I guess. Ah, oh well. Well, at least we can hopefully get the brakes done.
Friday night I was dancing, nothing left but a beer in my hand. She said, why don't you tell me some man talk? Said I would, but you won't understand. She said, why you acting crazy? Stop messing with my mind. A lover like you is maybe going blind. Oh, why you acting crazy? Stop messing with me, baby. A lover like you is maybe going crazy. You got me burning up. One more time. Oh, you got me burning up. One more time. She said, Friday day she was walking, nothing left but a cigarette in hand. She said, why?
Chris is having a go now because I'm bored of it. I've not got dirty clothes on. So I'm trying to...
You have now.
yeah, well, yeah. I'm trying to keep my clothes clean, which was a little bit silly. Oh, he's just
Never
dropped the...
see that
He's
again.
just dropped the Allen key.
Why you acting crazy? Stop messing with me, baby. A lover like you is never gonna save me. Oh, you got me burning up. One more time.
It's 10.
Well, we've adjusted the parking brake.
We think.
And we think it's better. We're still not 100% convinced on it, to be honest. Could be that the cable's stretched, but we think that we've improved it. So we're just going to try and re-bleed the brakes and
See if that makes some
see
difference.
if that makes any difference. I mean, I don't think the brakes are horrendous. Oh, and it's raining. It's just started raining.
Perfect.
Lovely. Well, I think we'll do that and then go to the pub then.
Yeah. Makes sense.
It's Friday evening.
Friday night, as they say. What's his name said? Well, I can't remember what his name was.
Who?
It's Friday night.
Friday night. Montel Jordan, is
That's
it?
the one.
Yeah.
It's Friday night, as Montel Jordan would
Yeah.
say.
Well, I'm going to have the easy job today, I've decided. I'll just follow your instruction, Chris.
Yeah, wait for me to get my nipples off.
So what I'm going to do is pump it and then hold the pedal down and you release it. I'm not going to pump it while the nipple's open. Do you know what I mean?
Well, nipple's open now, so shut it back off.
Yeah, shut it back off. Tell me when.
It's off.
Right, let the pumping commence. not going to absolutely blast it because I don't want to kill the master cylinder. Pedal's nice and firm.
Yeah.
Release.
I've released the Kraken. Releasing the Kraken.
Yeah. It's all the way to the floor. Shut it off again.
Pedal off.
Yeah. Can I pump it again?
Yeah.
So the outcome of the brakes was that the handbrake is still not brilliant, to be honest. We think we've improved it, but it's not amazing. However, the bleeding's really helped. We got some more dirty fluid out of the lines, and the pedal feels a lot firmer. So we reckon that the brakes themselves are actually going to have a lot more bite than they did last time. So we're really pleased about that. Well, that's all for this week's episode, guys. Once again, thanks for watching, thanks for supporting us. Leave a comment, leave a like, please press subscribe, it really helps. And if you've got any tips or you know how to fix these, get in touch. We'll take your advice. See you for the next one. We're going to try as well, sorry, noisy Astra with a silly exhaust on it. We're going to try to get the videos out more regularly. Like I said, we've been super busy and the weather's not been on our side. You can see it's raining this evening, but we're going to try and do some more regular content for you guys. So stick around, and hopefully this thing this summer will be driving around with an MOT. That's the plan.